Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 523. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Zach, James, thanks for holding down the fort last week.
Sure.
Thanks. Who's Zach James?
Zach, comma, James, comma, colon.
We
Thanks for holding down
say
the fort.
punctuation on this show.
Fine.
You're welcome.
Zach, comma, James, colon. Thanks for holding down the fort, period.
I don't think a colon belongs there, but you are welcome, Kyle.
It was
With an
fun
exclamation
being a
point.
listener this past week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It was old school Cinereelists for him, too.
It was. I felt like I wanted to contribute, but I couldn't. It was frustrating. Just how it's been before this all started.
Sure.
Was listening to the games frustrating?
Well, yeah, okay. Because you guys chose S and L, like I'm like, this game's gonna go on forever. Like it's so S is incredibly common.
L isn't, though.
I mean, there was some L ones you guys didn't do.
But that's true. Yeah. I thought of a bunch afterwards, but that's not
Well,
the game.
that's always
so.
how it works, though. Like
Yep.
in the moment, you blank out.
The games on the Patreon we were terrible at.
Oh, do you guys play Patreon games too?
Mhm.
We did.
Oh, I haven't listened to that yet. Let's pause. I'm gonna go listen, and then we can come back. Okay.
Okay, so what'd you think?
Those were great games. Wow, not as terrible as you thought.
That is a hot take.
I really liked James. You perfectly described hippopotamus.
I really did. That
Like,
movie, Hippopotamus, I described it perfectly.
I knew right away what you're talking about, that scene in Jumanji when Kevin Rock gets eaten by the hippopotamus. You painted a word picture for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the
Okay,
game.
here's my
so-
question for you guys.
Yes.
You know, we've had pig and we've had, cow and all
First cow?
cow, whatever.
I was going to say.
What is an animal? What's an animal that you still haven't seen but would like to see a movie based around? You have to pick an animal.
Was Pig based around Pig?
Yeah, but there's movies based around pigs. There's Babe and
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm pretty sure
Lamb.
the movie Pig was based around a pig too.
I mean, the pig was
So,
the
yeah.
impetus, but
So what's a movie animal that you haven't gotten to really see? I mean, we've done the red panda now. We've seen red. What animal are you looking for?
I want to see a movie where the snake is the hero.
Hero snake.
Oh, hero.
Yeah, and he's just misunderstood. Everybody assumes everything about him or her. And now,
Even you assume things about.
yeah, I did. I just
about
assumed
her.
that.
Wow. This sounds like an animated kids film that you're describing to me.
I mean, it could be live action. I don't care.
Like Lion King live action or like Homeward Bound live action.
Whatever gets it done.
I want to see a Homeward Bound style movie with snakes trying to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Just
No, you don't. You don't care about seeing that. You're making that up.
You're right. I don't want to.
You don't care at all about seeing that.
I don't think James actually wants to see a snake movie.
Have you ever seen that
Like, I
Planet
think-
Earth clip with David Attenborough narrating where it's like an iguana running across the beach with all these snakes coming out of the rocks to like get it?
Yeah, I've seen that.
That is like some of the most mind-blowing nature footage I've ever seen. Kyle is looking at me like he's never seen this. Kyle, you have some
All the Planet
homework
Earth
to do
footage
after
is
this
mind
podcast.
blowing.
Yeah, I haven't watched Planet Earth.
Well, didn't we determine Planet Earth is super popular? At some point in this podcast, I denied it was super
Yeah.
popular,
Probably.
and I was proven
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah,
I think it's like
Yeah.
the highest rated IMDb TV show or something like that.
yeah. I don't know if it's the highest, but it's a lot higher
up
than I
there.
thought it was. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yep.
Cool.
I do have one bone to pick with last week's episode. We
Okay.
had to clarify something.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
And it's very important, and that's the jujitsu black belt ranking system.
Okay, so you want to make sure we talk about your black belt again. Not just one episode. It's got to be 2 episodes.
I mean, 2 episodes in the month of March. Then April starts soon, and we got to start the
We'll have to
countdown.
rehash
Yeah.
it again.
All right.
We're going to bring
Well,
it back up.
how'd we do? Did I get it right?
No.
What did I say and what was wrong?
Well, okay, so you were talking about like I have a black belt with a black stripe
No,
and
no,
then
no. He
James
said a color belt with black
with the
stripes.
black stripe.
Yes.
Well, that's what you said, James, and then Zach, you agreed. You're like, yeah, he's got a colored belt with a black stripe. No, I've listened to this very recently. You can shake your head all you want.
I never
But I
said
was-
that. He said, I said, oh, Kyle is a legitimate black belt, like he has a black belt. And then Zach goes, no, I think it's a colored belt with black stripes. Because I didn't even know black belts or like belts had stripes. So there's no way I suggested it was a colored belt with stripes
Okay.
because I don't even know what that is until Zach mentioned it.
Well, the two of you
Mhm.
got to this point where I had a colored belt. I don't even know what that means with a black stripe. And that's wrong. I do have a black belt because it's called a black belt.
Right. A
Is it
legitimate,
black?
fully
yeah.
black belt.
Fully black belt, correct.
Sure.
And then the stripes are white. Very important. And then, Zach, you were kind of getting this right. You were on the right path because you were talking about degrees of black belts, right? James, you thought that first degree was the highest, and that's the lowest degree. There's black belt, and then there's first degree black belt. And Zach, you said something like he gets a degree every year for the first 3 years. And you flipped that.
Okay.
I get 1 degree every 3 years for the first 3 stripes. So in 9 years, well, 6 years from now, I'll be a 3rd degree black belt. Then after that, you get 1 every 5 years for 3 stripes. So that's 15 years to get to a 6th degree black belt. Then after 7 years, you get your next stripe. And your belt becomes black and red.
What do you mean by black
So
and
it's-
red? Like black with a red stripe or like half black, half red? What does that mean?
It alternates black and red, the belt itself. So there'll be like a black chunk, a red chunk, a black chunk, a red chunk. It's actually called a coral belt because it's kind of like a snake.
Sure. And
So once you
is that the
Go-
highest?
yeah, go ahead.
once you get a black belt, hold on. Once you get a black belt, the degrees just mean like how long you've been a black belt. It's not like you're a better black belt.
It's how long you've been training as a black belt. So it's kind of the
But
implication.
you automatically get them.
Yeah, but right. So they're marking time, but the implication is you're continuing to train, so you're continuing to improve.
What if you take a decade off? Does that count as time towards your belt? Or do you have to
That's-
start over?
That's really up between you and whoever your professor, your trainer is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm gonna say a 2nd degree black belt is the most powerful. Because once you're like a 5th degree black belt, no way. You're like 65 fighting against a 30-year-old.
I mean, right. Like, it definitely depends on what kind of training you're doing. Are you competing? Obviously, your age gets into that. Because from when you get your black belt to when you get to the 9th degree, which is the highest you can get, that takes 48 years.
So in theory, unless you're training at the age of 0, you would be over 50 by the time you're at that level.
Yeah, and you can't get a black belt till you're 19 anyway. So the youngest person at the highest rank would have to be 48 plus 19, so 67.
Wow.
That's as young as you can be to be a 9th degree black belt.
Okay.
So
What-
anyway, the point is,
what year will
if
you
I-
be a 9th degree black belt? If current trajectory?
when I am at my current trajectory, I will be 84 years old. Assuming I keep training, which is kind of a goal. Like, I think it'd be pretty sweet to be 84 years old. And then I don't even know who would give me my 9th degree at that point, but
I think it'd be
You'd
pretty
probably
sweet to
be-
be 84 years old, period.
no, that's an easy with my family. 84 is an easy goal. I'm shooting for at least like mid 90s.
Sure.
Mid 90s is not even a reach. We can get there.
I believe in you, Kyle.
I believe in me too.
All right. So I think we've cleared the air. You are a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
No.
With white stripes.
Zach, we just talked about this. I'm a first-degree black belt. All right, let me
with
start
white
again.
stripe. He's
So-
a black belt with white stripe.
Hold on. Is it incorrect to say you're a black belt?
I'm a black belt.
With white stripe.
But I expected after that whole explanation, you could then recognize I'm a first-degree black belt.
Which stripe are you, Meg or Jack?
Oh, I'm definitely a Jack.
Was that a white stripes joke?
Yes.
It was. Good job, Zach.
I'm proud of you.
I knew that from context, not from knowledge of the white stripes. For me, the white stripes and the Clash sound very similar in my head because I don't know what either sounds like.
I mean, they kind of are in the same world.
Do they?
I would say.
They have a
think-
similar like punkish sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very different
Nice.
eras, but yes, they're in the same
Okay.
boat, I would say. Well, welcome to the podcast. This is episode 223, as Kyle mentioned. Today, we are going to stop talking about black belts and we're going to start talking about movies, including the Oscars, which happened last night. We're recording this on a Monday. Last night was Sunday. The 94th annual Oscars happened. We're going to talk about the things that happened during that ceremony, including the giving of awards and other events that you've probably already heard of. And also, we're going to talk about a movie that was nominated for Best Picture and, spoiler alert, did not win. But we haven't talked about it yet. So it's a highly
It did
regarded
win
movie.
Best International.
Yeah.
That's true. Didn't win Best Picture, but it did win Best International Picture. So we're going to talk about
Oscar
Drive
winning.
My Car. And yeah, that's the agenda for today. Before we jump into all of that fun stuff, I need to remind you that there is a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Cinereelists, find us there, subscribe, and you can watch us while you listen to us. You could support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Cinereelists. Support the podcast, get extra after show audio. You could leave us an Apple Podcast review. If you haven't done that yet, that's a free and easy way to support the podcast. Leave us a review or send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelist.com, REEL with an S on the end. Send a comment, a question, a list suggestion, any of those kinds of things, and we will discuss it on the podcast. Anything else anybody needs to say before we jump into Oscar recap chat? Nope. Good. Let's get into it. So the Oscars happened last night, and I mean, what do you say about what happened last night? I mean, let's go over the non-controversial things that happened
I
last
think
night.
a lot of good things happened last night.
A lot of good things happened.
Well,
Let's talk about the good things that happened, and then we'll talk about the thing that everybody's talking about.
Well, can we say first of all that we invited whoever wanted to join on the Discord
Yeah,
to chat along with us during the ceremony, and that was a lot of fun.
it was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Josh, who's lives in Australia, and for whatever reason, his broadcast was an hour after ours. And I don't think he realized that right away. So, but he hung in there, even though he was watching all of our chat come through. He was still enjoying it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think
Josh,
we
thanks
did
for
a
sticking in there.
we did a pretty good job of being vague once we learned that about specifics in the chat.
Well, we also learned some people were streaming. We're minutes behind, so we couldn't just be shouting out winners
Right.
because
Yeah,
not everyone was on the same. Yeah.
for sure.
I did manage to convince him that don't look up one Best Picture though.
That was pretty funny. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So let's start with the hosts, right? You've got Amy Schumer, who else?
Wanda Sykes.
Wanda Sykes, and the third person that I
Regina
never
Hall.
remember. Regina Hall. Three host show. I think that's never been done before, or at least not in the time that I remember watching the show. And it was all three women, which has never happened on the show either, as far as I know. What'd you guys think of the hosts? I mean, it's the first time we've had hosts back since what, 4 years, I think.
No.
3 years, 2019,
Is that when
2018.
Kevin Hart was supposed to host and then got fired?
Yep. I think it was 2018 that happened.
Okay. I don't know if and this kind of leads into the thing we're talking about later.
Mhm.
I don't know if I want stand-up comedians hosting, because there is this element of like, oh, we have to roast movies and roast people during the show. And that I don't know, that just seems out of place at the Oscars for me. Like, it's supposed to be a positive thing. It's supposed to be a celebration of the craft in movies. And then when you got Amy Schumer making jokes about like how unfunny Being at Ricardo's is, or how long a movie is, I don't know if that was really, if it feels out of place for people to be there to celebrate what they do and then have someone kind of trying to take the wind out of the room like that.
Well, they end up taking so much time on these bits that like could go to a shorter run length or to like more appreciating of movies. I don't know if an award show has to be a funny program.
Mhm.
It can be entertaining, but not need to be funny.
I don't know if you guys remember when what's that guy's name?
Billy Crystal,
No.
Seth MacFarlane.
No. The girl who was the princess in those princess movies.
Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway and James,
James
Franco
Franco.
hosted, and they were not funny, and it was brutal. And even though they weren't trying to be funny at times, it was still brutal. It was like, I think comedians with good scripts, with half funny jokes, they don't even have to be killer jokes, just enough joke to get you from point A to point B, are like a nice, entertaining transitional element to an awards show. So I'm not sure throwing the baby out with the bathwater as far as what happened this past week or yesterday makes sense to me. I mean, Bob Hope hosted the Oscars for years. That's what he did. He walked out and roasted everybody in the crowd. Like, this is an Oscars tradition. It's been happening for 50 years plus. As long as it's been televised, there's been a stand-up comedian who makes jokes about the crowd at the Oscars. And so I'm not saying it's a show that I won't watch because they get rid of hosts or they get rid of stand-up comedians. It doesn't seem like that element of it didn't seem out of place for me. Nor should it have been for anybody sitting in the crowd. You know what I mean? That's what the Oscars are. At least the televised version of the Oscars. That's what they've been. Now maybe the level of the jokes or how many or how cutting they are is a discussion, but getting rid of jokes at the Oscars.
Well,
I just think so often they're not funny. They spend so much time on these bits that just fall flat,
Sure.
you know?
and I guess I find them mean-spirited. Like,
Mm.
does a joke have to be at the expense of something?
I mean,
In this
not
context, like I'm not talking about humor in general, but
sure.
like in the context of the Oscars, does the joke have to be at the expense of the people there who made the movies?
Does it have to? Oh no, of course it doesn't have to.
Okay.
But why are you watching the Oscars if not to see jokes about the movie industry or the movies that happened that year? You know what I mean? If I just want to see jokes that have no context with what's going on in the current room, I'll go watch a Netflix special. You know what I mean?
Well, but I mean, like, you can do the joke, like, who is it? Amy Schumer and Wanda Sykes and Regina Hall all came dressed up like different people, like different characters from movies,
Mhm.
right? Whether that was funny or not, like, that's a joke about the movies. That's not, trying to take any one person down or anything
Sure.
down. It's just like, I don't know. I think you can do jokes about movies without having them to do at the expense of someone or something.
Gotcha. So it's not necessarily the jokes or the presence of a stand-up comedian that you think might solve the issue. It's more the style of jokes that are told.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
I mean, that's a fair argument.
I just think if you're going to have jokes, that should be really funny. I don't subscribe to James's. They can be half funny and it's fine. It just seems like a waste of time then. Like either just have really great writing and a great host. Like Billy Crystal was a great host, right?
Mhm.
He wasn't necessarily the funniest ever, but he was perfect for that show. I don't know.
I remember Hugh Jackman being a good host.
He was a good host.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like their big joke was, I think it was like during the recession, 2008, whatever. So their thing was like, it was Oscars on the budget.
Mhm.
And that was more poking fun at them. Like it was more inward poking fun of than like the outward stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the hosting that we got. I wouldn't say I laughed out loud at a single thing that was said, but I wasn't like not paying attention, or
Yeah.
the show didn't lose me. Like every joke they told went by super fast. The only one that kind of irked me was like the whole pat down of the hot guy segment. I was kind of like, why are we doing this? Seems like
Right.
you're making every angry male YouTuber's argument about Hollywood
It-
with this one segment where women are
Yeah.
patting men down
The-
and making
I
sex
saw a lot
jokes.
of online whataboutism about that segment.
For sure. And I'm not even like that breed of YouTuber, and yet I was like, this is exactly what people accuse you of, and now you're doing it. And everybody in this room is laughing at it, and it's like, okay. Seems ill-advised, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, I will agree that maybe there are moments in a 3-hour or 40-minute broadcast they need to double think some of the things that escape people's mouths. But I think in general they do a decent job at that. I just get one host. Just find one host who has the huevos to stand alone on stage and host, you know what I mean? And bring you through the night. That's what we're looking for. I don't care
Jimmy
if they're
Kimmel over
male,
here.
female, stand-up comedian, humorist, puppet master. I don't care. Just
Oh, you
pick
want
one person.
Jeff
and,
Dunham to host the Oscars?
I mean, I would watch that. I'm probably would laugh just as much as I did last night. So
I don't think anyone wants that.
yeah. But I wasn't upset with the three hosts. It's just like, remember Zach when we were watching and it was like an hour in, and then all of a sudden Wanda
Yeah.
Sykes is on screen. I was like, oh yeah, she's a part of this. We haven't seen her in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
full
Yeah.
hour.
Forgot about her.
Like,
Yeah.
what was the point of having three hosts if they're only going to each get their own one segment?
Now, a controversial thing leading into the Oscars was the fact that they were going to pre-record
Mhm.
some of the less popular awards and then show them edited into the broadcast. And a lot of people were decrying that. I think for the most part, I was actually okay with how they did that. My only complaint is maybe some of them came and went so quickly that I like they some of them came very fast and
Mhm.
were over, and I wasn't even sure what was happening. But otherwise, I thought they did it relatively well.
Yeah, I felt like
Go ahead.
when they would cut to those, they would verbally say, this is the award for best costume, whatever. And then the next thing you know, there's somebody standing on the stage giving an acceptance speech, but there was no like lower third that said the name of the person talking and what they just won.
Mhm.
And so you had to like guess as they were talking what context they're giving an acceptance speech for, like as far as what award. And it was confusing at times as somebody who was trying to keep track of it as it was going along. I was like, what are they accepting an award for? But I did not miss walks from chairs to stairs. I mean, that I was fine with that. I wish they could not announce them before it airs. That would be nice for people who are on social media. Like if they want this to be an event online, they have to somehow not leak half the results ahead of time.
I mean, there's people who are watching that broadcast beforehand or who are in the theater and they have phones and Twitter. So all you need is one person tweeting like Riz Ahmed just won
But
best short doc, and
here's what they did
it's
last
done.
night, though, from what I understand.
Okay.
People started leaking the winners, and then like 10 minutes before they went to air, the Academy Awards started tweeting out all the winners because
They did.
other things were leaking. So if you were following the Academy Awards on Twitter, it wasn't like you randomly came across some attendance leak. You were being fed the results from the official channel. I think they should just do that. That way, in fact, this might boost their Twitter account. Just say, look, if you don't want any results, follow us. You won't get them till they happen. And don't look at normal Twitter and you won't be spoiled, essentially. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they changed that, but that's the one part I don't like about that.
Just pay big accounts, 5 of them, to tweet out a different winner. Each one tweets out a different winner for every category, and then no one knows who's right.
Sure.
How much do you think Kendall Jenner costs per tweet?
Probably $80,000.
Oh, that no, more than that.
You think so?
You think it's more than 80 grand per tweet?
I don't know. Well, remember, like Fire Festival, they got like Kendall Jenner and a bunch of big people to just post like an orange square that said fire or something like that.
Mhm.
I think they got paid millions of dollars to post. I mean, they have how many millions of followers?
Well, so how many people did they get orange squares? I mean, they didn't spend $300 million on the orange square promotion.
I don't know. I mean, Fire Festival didn't really manage their money very well, so
It's because they embezzled it.
well, I mean,
Allegedly.
they did all the things wrong. I don't think there's any
Yeah.
one thing they did right exactly. So
The other thing that bothered me about the change with the way they presented the awards wasn't necessarily the actual execution of the presenting of the awards. It's that the dumb event was still 3 hours and 40
Yes.
minutes long. Like supposedly I read an estimate that each walk, like cutting out the walk and the announcement of all the nominees, was supposed to cut out anywhere from 1:15 to 1.5 minutes from every award. They did that for 8 awards. So what are we at? Like 12 minutes
12, 15
minimum
minutes,
as far as saved time. And yet this Oscars just as long as it has ever been. So
Well-
if you're going to do that, if you're going to spoil a third of the results on Twitter in advance, I want a trade-off. I want what you said we were going to get, which is shorter Oscars. We did not get that. They filled it with 60th anniversary Bond tributes, which nobody cares about. The 60th anniversary of Bond.
and
And
there's a bunch of random clips too. Like it was one of the worst like montages I've seen.
and Juno reunions. Come on, guys. The 28th anniversary of Pulp Fiction. Seriously, wait 2 years. Do it 3 years ago.
that speaking of Pulp Fiction, that was strange. And I kind of were talking on Discord. I forgot this, but Pulp Fiction anniversary, they're the ones that handed out the Best Actor award.
Right.
But none of the other anniversaries, like did Wesley Snipes hand out an award when they did White Man Can't Jump, or are they just there like,
I don't know
hey,
what
we
they
made
did.
this movie?
They handed out an award, but I don't remember what
They
it was.
did. Okay.
Do you remember, Zach?
It was
No.
early in the night, so
Yeah. They handed out some award, but I don't remember what it was. And I'm not sure it was particularly relevant to who they were.
how much did Al
or like-
Pacino not want to be there last night for the 50th anniversary of
It didn't even make sense. He's not even in that movie.
The Godfather?
Yeah, isn't one of those guys not in The Godfather?
What?
De Niro's in Godfather 2.
Godfather 2.
Right.
Yeah,
Not in The
So
Godfather.
technically, De Niro's not in The Godfather. I'll give you that.
So why is he on stage for the 50th anniversary of The Godfather? I understand he's related to The
everyone else is
Godfather.
dead.
Get
Like,
Sophia up there while you're at it then.
Who's left? Like seriously, who's left from Godfather so that you could bring out?
I don't know.
James Caan.
I'm just
You could bring
saying.
James Caan. That's
I'm just
about it.
saying. Obviously, the Godfather reunion at 50th makes sense.
Yeah.
Drag those guys out. I'm down. But not somebody who's not even in the movie.
Sure. I personally don't mind it being long.
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's not wasted fluff time, right? It can be 5 hours long if it wants to be. If it's all about the movies and like celebrating the movies, I'm in. If it's bits and we're ordering pizza and stuff like that, then it's just like, okay, let's keep going. Let's shorten this out. You know what I mean? But I don't mind a long broadcast if it's action packed with stuff I care about.
Not Wanda Sykes doing a 5-minute bit in a museum.
I
Correct. Yeah.
I agree with all that. Like, it can be 5 hours long. If you're going to give me 5 hours of solid entertainment, I'll watch every minute of it. But don't shorten it. Cut stuff out and then make it just as long with even more boring or stuff than people walking down aisleways. That's ridiculous. And not how you sold the concept at all. I don't know. I just curious to know where that time went for sure.
How'd you guys feel about the Twitter polls?
Oh my
I know.
What
I
felt
a
like the
giant
MTV
waste.
Movie Awards.
What
That was-
a giant waste of everybody's existence.
That was- I didn't even realize that they had given the winners of those. I just recalled when they like showed what movies were nominated, and the movies that were nominated in both categories were ridiculous.
Oh no,
insane.
Those are the top 5. Like 20 movies were you could vote on 20 movies that I'm not sure how they determined those 20 movies. And then those are the top 5 that they wanted to show.
Sure.
That's wild.
Yeah,
And obviously the Zack Snyder fan base was spamming Twitter because Army of the Dead, fan favorite of 2022 or 2021. People haven't stopped talking about Army of the Dead. It's all I hear when I talk to the real movie lovers is Army of the Dead just constantly.
Yeah, and so Zack Snyder's Justice League wasn't eligible, which is why Army of the Dead won. Because it's a 2017 movie. But most cheerworthy wasn't specific to a year.
Oh, that's
and
true.
so that's why it snuck in on that one. And then the other head scratcher was Mini Mata, starring Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Like, I'm involved probably to too much extent in movies and what's coming out and what people are talking about. I never heard of that movie in my life. And yet somehow it's a fan favorite from last year.
Oh, it's the number 3.
I know.
Yeah.
Never heard of this movie in my life. And so I think the problem is like the people who come up with these concepts just have zero clue how the internet works.
Yeah.
And definitely zero clue how Twitter polls work. Because like Twitter at its best and at its worst is like an awesome organizational tool to bring people together that have nothing in common with each other except for probably their worst idea possible. And so that's how you get these armies of Zack Snyder voters who saw that Zack Snyder was nominated for these 2 things and made sure that the moment that voting opened up, they attacked it. It's not, I don't know,
It's not
Mark
democratic,
and Wendy
it's not
sitting on their
thought out.
couch,
Yeah.
pulling out their phone to vote on Twitter for their favorite fan moments. That's not how these things happen in the real world. And I think if they ever do this again, I don't know how you could ever do it again on Twitter, at least. Like, because this will happen every time they do it on Twitter. Is fan communities will get together in advance and organize, and you will end up with a scene from an extended cut of a movie that was dropped on HBO Max as a fan cheer moment.
Now, James, have you gotten that far in the Snyder Cut yet?
No.
Because I think once you get there, you'll be cheering.
I think even if I did, the amount of people that have actually seen that scene compared to the amount of people that voted for that scene will be very disproportionate. I'm imagining. It's just such a waste of breath and time and energy that they're even including it. It's dumb. Why don't they just like nominate something and let everybody in the Academy vote for it and make it like an unofficial award? And then that way people can vote for what they want to vote for and not what they have any pressure to vote for. You know what I mean? Like,
Was that an official award? Like, did it?
No.
Do they
No.
get an Oscar?
No,
Okay.
that was like an announcement.
That's what I'm saying. Like, let them vote on something that's an unofficial one-time award rotate it every year. That way people at the Oscars can vote for the Spider-Man movie. You know what I mean? They
What
feel
if they
no
took,
pressure
like,
to go ahead.
the top 10 box office movies from that year and said, these are the 10 you can vote for,
Sure.
right? That obviously they're the popular movies,
Hmm.
right? And then it's like the Stanley Cup. You get the award, you hold on to it for a year, and then you pass it on to the next person.
Or just don't do any of this and end it 10 minutes earlier. Like, how many viewers did they
I
get
would-
based on this voting, this Twitter poll voting? How many Zack
0.
Snyder viewers did they gain? I mean, it's so dumb. It's so stupid.
None of their changes are going to gain voters or gain viewers.
Yeah.
So just realize the audience you have, cater to that audience, and forget it's not going to be like in the 80s when you had 40 million people tuning in.
Yeah.
One thing that I really liked from this year's Oscars
Mhm.
was the In Memoriam.
Yeah.
I thought that was super well done. You had the normally it's this really kind of sentimental dour music, and here they had like a gospel choir, like upbeat kind of like joyful music, which I thought was awesome. And I don't feel like anyone got short shrift. And they pulled people out to like give little tiny comments about certain people, like Bill Murray. And I thought it was perfect. I loved it. I thought it was a great job.
Yeah, that was a highlight for me. Instead of just being a slideshow and people clapping politely for each person who pops up.
Mm-hmm. Zach, remember I asked you if the Rust cinematographer was represented? She was the 5th
Yeah.
person in the slideshow. So it was like, it was up
okay.
with the really big names. That's why we
Yeah.
hadn't realized it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But they
Okay.
did do that. At the moment, I was like, I can't believe they didn't put her in there, but they did.
I really enjoyed the musical performances too. Like that opening Beyonce number on the tennis court in Compton was awesome.
It was weird. I was fine.
It was
with
weird. You didn't like it? Was it the color outfits, the tennis ball green that they were wearing?
I don't know. I'm really juiced right now, probably because of the day I've had. So I don't know. I'm feeling I felt like this is the section where we talk about the good things of the Oscars, and I'm crapping on all of it. But yeah, I mean, it's just, they definitely made a change there. I never remember them going outside of the building for a number, but maybe they have. I just don't remember it. It was a lot of green. It was like, welcome to the Oscars. Now you're outside and everything's green. It was like, okay.
I did find it unfortunate that they had the backdrop green also. So like the costumes kind of blended in with what was behind them. Like they need a little contrast, but I thought it was a cool concept.
Oh, forget the costumes, the piano, the violins, the music stands, everything they could paint green was green, I would say. Everything.
It seemed like the color of the Oscars this year was green. Like a lot of people wore green clothes. I was digging it. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Jada Smith wore green.
She did. Jada Pinkett Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's
right. I liked their Bruno rendition also.
Even the Megan the Stallion verse where she called out dirty word.
I missed that part. I like Megan Thee Stallion as a rapper and a performer, so I was happy to see her perform there.
That was interesting. That they played that song specifically because it's incredibly popular with kids, and then they have this one like guest rapper like rapping things that are not maybe kid appropriate. They had it super late in the show.
I did get Galen out of bed for that portion. I was like, "Hey, it's on," and he came out and watched it, and then like the rapping started. He's like, "What song is this?" I'm like, "Oh, it's still it. Just enjoy."
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like they were like, "Okay, what's happening movie related that we can inject in this show to get like a little more of each quadrant, right? Of the 4 quadrants." Well, we need to talk about Bruno as like the kids song of the moment. It's related to this movie that's nominated, even though it's not that song. So even though we don't normally do this, let's put that song on the broadcast. But what if people who who are really into raunchy rap don't like the idea of us playing this song for 3 minutes. Well, let's go get a really raunchy rapper and inject her into the middle of it to make sure we don't lose them. And it's like, come on. That was not for the kids. They don't know who Megan Thee Stallion is. Most kids who listen to we don't need to talk about Bruno. Nor would most kids be up that late for the most part.
It was late. I agree. Yeah.
It was late. The choices are just, they're baffling, I would say. I don't understand it. I don't know.
James, I love your positive energy right now.
I don't even like that song. I don't care about that song. I've heard it once. The one time I watched Encanto. I just don't understand who it was for. Is it for the YouTube clip the next day? It's not for the people watching at home, like during the live event that you claim you want to boost the ratings for?
I mean, it might be. It might be like for the buzz, like for people sharing it on social media the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I told this to Zach in the room, but you start the Oscars at 8. You announce that at 8:55 we're gonna do You Don't Know About Bruno, and then families can get their kids around the TV to watch the number that's there for them, and then hey,
Hey, Galen.
how's it going, Galen?
I can't put in your ear.
Okay.
Kyle's son Galen has joined us on the podcast.
Can you
Hi,
hear them?
Galen.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
Galen, I heard you got to see We Don't Talk About Bruno on the Oscars last night.
Yeah.
What'd you think of
we
that?
did. It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
That's cool.
What was your
What'd you think of
favorite
the
part
song?
about it?
I liked it.
You liked it.
That's great.
I like that.
Galen,
part
what
too.
is your favorite movie these days?
Monsters Inc.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Oh, and what do you like about that movie?
It's because it's funny.
That's great.
What's the
your favorite
best?
part of Monsters
what-
Inc?
Yeah.
I forget.
Is it when she just go potty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Galen, is there a movie that you haven't seen that you really want to see that you want your dad to say you're allowed to see?
I don't know.
No.
RoboCop.
Robo.
Oh, you want to see RoboCop?
Mm-hmm.
What about Indiana Jones?
Yeah, that one too.
That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, where's my RoboCop movie?
In my stash bag.
What is the
Okay.
stash bag? I don't know what that is.
It's missing off my shelf. He has it somewhere.
Oh,
It's in
okay.
my room.
Oh, all right. Are you're holding it hostage from your dad?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does he have to do to get it back?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Galen, do you know what the name of your dad's podcast is?
I forget.
Can you think really hard?
Don't forget.
That's all right.
Do you like his podcast?
Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
what did you tell me tonight that you wanted to do? What
I forget.
you
Watch
want?
a movie.
No. On the podcast, what did you want to do?
Say hi.
You also told me that you wanted to be on a whole episode.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Whoa.
that'd be pretty good.
What do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
What movie were you watching tonight with Mama?
Ron's gone wrong.
Ron's Gone Wrong.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that movie. Are you watching it right now, or is it over?
We paused it. We're gonna watch it tomorrow and finish it tomorrow.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to tell me how it is.
Yeah.
Do you want to say goodnight?
Good night.
Good night. Thanks
Good
for
night,
coming
Galen.
on.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
We've all had kids on the podcast now.
That's right. All our
Yeah.
kids are on the podcast.
Mine's a little older.
Well, my son hasn't been on the podcast.
That's why I said kids, not all the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know, but
said
Kyle
all
said
our
all the kids.
I forgot about that one.
sure.
No.
He doesn't count until he can talk, at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
I count him.
Wouldn't be much of an interview at this point.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? I don't remember.
Let's talk about some of the winners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Well, the big movie winner, I'd say there were two. In my opinion, there were two big movie winners. One, Dune.
Yeah.
Dune won all the technical awards it was up for. I think maybe director and picture were the only two it didn't win. Maybe
it was not. Denis Villeneuve was not nominated for director.
Okay, so it was just picture as
Just
far as big
picture.
awards that it didn't win.
Mhm.
And so that's one winner. I mean, anytime you can sweep 6 awards, it's not a sweep, but you understand what I mean.
Well, when you sweep the technical awards, that's pretty
Right.
big.
Pretty good for sure. And then the other big winner to me was Coda,
Yeah.
just winning all 3 of the awards it's nominated for, including Best Picture.
Yeah.
Um,
It really looked like Power of the Dog, was going to do well because it was nominated for so much,
mhm.
but it only won Best Director. And was Benedict Cumberbatch even there? I didn't ever see him.
He was there. Yes.
He was there.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure when they showed Benedict Cumberbatch during the Best Actor portion, no one was focused on him at that moment.
Right. For sure.
Good point.
Um,
Good point.
And I also think Benedict Cumberbatch was going to the ceremony because it's expected of him, not because he expected to win. Because the odds were against him for sure,
Mhm.
as far as winning. Jessica Chastain was also like another somewhat upset. That was definitely a category that was up for grabs. She won it.
I was really happy she won.
Me too.
Was that her first Oscar?
Win? Maybe. Very possibly. Because I
Okay.
can't. I mean, maybe Zero Dark 30 she got a nomination for. Maybe.
Oh, she's been nominated before. I just
Okay.
don't know if this might be her first win.
I don't think she won for Zero Dark 30, but
I loved how happy she was when her makeup artist won an Oscar. She was so happy for her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Tammy Faye. Like, makeup is such one of the defining features of her.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. I was also happy that Troy Kotsur won for Coda for Best Actor. Thought that
Mhm.
was cool to see him win. I mean, I don't have a huge amount invested in Troy Kotsur. I didn't even know he existed as a person until I saw Coda this year. But it was cool to, over the course of the lead up to this awards season, hear more about him and the fact that he's like a longtime actor, a deaf actor who just there's no roles for deaf actors. So we haven't heard of him, but evidently he's a legend in theater, both deaf theater and hearing theater. Like when they need a lead guy in a hearing play that has a deaf part, he's going to get it. Basically, he's
Mhm.
the go-to guy. So to see him in a movie that's popular enough to get nominated and then win, and then he also gets Best Actor, I think that's a cool story.
I was really happy to see Ariana DeBose win for
Mhm.
West Side Story. But what I found interesting and kind of sad is that only 2 Latina women have won an acting award, both for playing the same character.
Yeah, that seems.
Is that true?
Yeah. Rita Moreno won for playing Anita back in 1962
Oh, that's
or whatever.
interesting.
So yeah.
I'm trying to think of anybody else that might have even been nominated. Like Jennifer Lopez has never won an award, right? I'm trying
Or
to think
like
of
Penelope Cruz.
Penelope Cruz. Yeah, she's been nominated.
She was nominated
Yeah, but
this
she's
year.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So they've been nominated before. I'm not going to say
Mhm.
a lot, but
Yeah.
just never won, I guess.
Yep.
That's what you're saying. Interesting. I like Belfast. I was glad they won at least one. I think
That's Kenneth Branagh's first Oscar.
Yeah, I think for screenplay for arguably Kenneth Branagh's most personal film. I think if you were going to win one your entire life, that seems like a decent one to walk away with, for sure.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what else awards wise.
I was really happy to see Summer of Soul win, even though it was unfortunately overshadowed by events that happened right before it.
Mhm.
And I feel kind of bad for Questlove because I think he was giving a really good speech, and we were all on our phones at that moment trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
So I did go back and listen to Questlove's speech today, and he's very emotional, and I can't tell if he's emotional because of the award, because of what's happening in that moment, or all of the above. But
Mhm.
it's a really good speech, and I was a little bummed to see Flea not win anything. That's a movie I saw late, just before the Oscars, and if you guys have not seen Flea yet, you definitely need to check it out.
Yeah, I've not seen it yet, but I want to. Just didn't get to it.
And James,
Okay.
you told me that the windshield wiper is really worth watching as well, right?
The windshield wiper is good. Yes. I mean, the windshield wiper the storyline is kind of aimless. It's like these what do you call them? It's all about love, but it's like just these little glimpses into different scenes. There's no like real strong narrative through all of it.
Pastiche.
It's a pastiche. That is exactly the word I was looking for. Thank you, Kyle. But the animation in the windshield wiper, the title, I don't know why they named it windshield wiper. I mean, I know why, but it's a dumb title compared to what the short film is. But the animation, I don't know how they did it. Like, it's probably rotoscoped, but there's so much of it that's not probably in the shot. And it's not your typical rotoscoping. It was just a really beautiful thing to behold.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking at these winners, and I feel like short of Coda winning, I will say if I have to pick one thing that's good about this year's Oscars, it's that Coda won my favorite movie of the year. That does
Yeah.
not happen often. That my favorite of the movie of the year wins Best Picture. And
Yeah.
so would have had the last time there was a chance was when La La Land was up. For a fleeting moment, it was true. And then it went away. But happened this year, and that's a good thing.
6 long years James had to wait for that to happen again.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the thing that happened that Will Smith will never live down. It'll always
Never.
be, remember that year Will Smith won a Best Actor in a Film award, an award he's been chasing his entire movie career, I would say. An award that he actively chased parts to try to win. And he finally gets it. And like an hour before he wins, he's expected to win the award. He does something that kind of puts a damper on the whole night for himself and everybody involved in it.
It was like 15 minutes before.
Was it 15 minutes? Felt longer than
Yeah,
that.
it was the next award.
Ugh. Other than documentary, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was documentary and then his Best Actor. Yeah.
Crazy. Does anybody want to describe? Does anybody want to give context, or do we just assume everybody knows what happened?
I'll give context.
Okay.
I'll walk through the events. This will be my take on everything, and then you guys can comment from there. How about that?
Great.
I'm in.
Okay, so Chris Rock comes out, and he's kind of playing mini host, where I think he's just killing time, but he's kind of riffing with people in the crowd, exactly like what you were saying before, Kyle, like roasting people in the crowd. He talks about Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz, whatever. Then he goes to make a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, and he says that she's going to be in G.I. Jane 2, and he's excited to see that. And the reason he says that is because she's bald, just like G.I. Jane shaved her head in the movie. And everyone's kind of laughing along with this, including Will Smith, except for Jada, who's rolling her eyes and it's clearly not enjoying the joke. And the reason for that is because she has come out last year as having alopecia, which is an autoimmune disorder where you start losing your hair. And so she just relatively recently shaved her head, and I guess has been public about that, and it's been a struggle for her. Now, if I were to bet, I would bet that Chris Rock didn't know that, that she had alopecia.
I'm
That
leaning
would be
that
my
way, too.
assumption.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't strike me as the type of comedian that, like, if he knows someone's like struggling with someone, he's gonna really dig into them. Like it seemed like, he had made a documentary called Good Hair about black hair. Like I feel like he has at least some sensitivity to these issues. He probably was just making a joke about the fact that she shaved her head, like G.I. Jane. I doubt he knew about the alopecia, but regardless, we don't know. Anyways, Will Smith looks over at his wife, notices that she's clearly upset about it, and then instantly he stops laughing. And now he goes into defense mode. He's gonna like back up his wife, kind of a thing. And so all of a sudden, we see Chris Rock realize that that Will Smith is coming onto stage, and he thinks it's funny, right? He thinks he's gonna come up and pretend to be upset or something like that. And he gets up there, and everyone at this point thinks it's a bit, right? We just think this is kind of a pre-planned thing. And Will Smith comes up and he slaps Chris Rock full in the face, and then immediately walks off stage again. And Chris Rock, completely taken aback, doesn't know what to say. He actually plays it off pretty well, I think. He makes a joke. He really holds his composure, although as the longer it goes on, you can tell he's just completely flustered. And he's like a kid on a schoolyard who's been put in place and he doesn't know what to do. He's just kind of holding it together. And Will Smith goes back down and Chris Rock starts to like play it off again. And Will Smith is like, no, you're not going to play this off. And he shouts out from the audience, keep my wife's name out of your mouth. And he says it twice. And that's when everyone's starting to realize this is not a bit.
He added another, I know it's a word we're not going to say. He added another word between wife and mouth. Or your and mouth.
Sure.
Yes. Well,
Sure.
I think that's important because that's when people start realizing this is not a bit once that language was introduced.
Yeah. And the thing is, if he had, So then it's like, from then on, the Oscars was like, what just happened? Right. So like, clearly Will Smith was like, he felt like he needed to defend his wife and like make a statement that like that was beyond the pale. Right. And Chris Rock was just like doing what comedians do, is make jokes about people. And he was just, he didn't think he was doing anything out of the normal. I mean, if Ricky Gervais was there, he would have said a lot worse things about everybody. I don't know. For me, I think violence is just never the answer, right? So I think I think Will Smith was totally within his rights to be upset. He could have even yelled something from the crowd, and I think everyone would have been fine with that, like totally understood why he did that. I think the second you go on stage and you hit someone on national TV when you're a role model for young kids and you're showing them that like violence is how you solve situations, I think that is the wrong way to handle it. If he really felt like he had to like work it out with Chris Rock, they can do it off camera, not on live TV, because it really put a damper on things. But I thought Chris Rock handled it really well, and probably in retrospect, it was not the right joke to tell. But yeah, so I don't know. So that, and then he goes on to win Best Actor like 20 minutes later, and he throws out whatever speech he was going to give, and his entire speech is alluding to like how what he did on stage at the Oscars, and his acting role, how they kind of like mirror each other, about how his role in life right now is to protect his family. And he even goes ahead and apologizes to the Academy and his colleagues. And noticeably, he does not apologize to Chris Rock. And in this like long 5-minute meandering, acceptance speech.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what happened. Did I miss anything about how it went down?
I think you pretty much got it.
I think you got
play by
most of
play
it,
there
for sure.
I do wonder if how the stage was arranged made Will Smith like act more easily on his impulse.
Mhm.
Because like for people who didn't watch,
Because he was right there.
yeah, right. This wasn't like your normal like raised stage within like rows of people. Like the stage and the first couple rows were on the same level basically, and like Will Smith was, I mean, probably 10 feet away from Chris Rock
Mhm.
at more or less his eye level. So
Yeah.
I wondered if there was like a physical stage, or if Will Smith had to like go around and go up the little stairs on the side, if that would have been a different story versus
He was physically the closest you could possibly be to Chris Rock
as
at
an
that
audience
moment,
member.
right?
Exactly. Yep.
And then also, like, I think the fact that it was Chris Rock and not The Rock, right? Like, if Jason Momoa was up there, uh, Will Smith wouldn't have done anything. I think he saw Chris Rock as like a beta male that he could go. I mean, really, like more disrespectful than the slap was he slapped Chris Rock and then immediately turned around and walked away.
Mhm.
Like he had no fear that he was going to get hit back.
Yeah.
By Chris Rock.
Mhm.
And my understanding is that this is not the first time that Chris Rock has made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith at the Oscars. I believe it happened in like 2016 when she was even there.
Yeah, she did.
So there could be, I mean, there's articles written all about this, but there could be some history going on there too.
Mhm.
And they'd known each other for decades.
Wait, he was on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Right. Yeah. So I think I mean again, this is what comedians do. Like, so I think it's normal. It doesn't mean it's great, right? To like, you don't want to punch down on someone, and especially if he was aware there's a health issue, that's a different thing. So I think Will Smith was justifiably upset and kind of like protective of his wife. I just think that is not the way that you handle it on live TV.
Or
What do you guys think?
not even on live TV,
Or in
general.
private. I don't
Yeah.
think you should hit people in private. I don't know. I mean, people that get hit people. And I think there's probably a lot in Will Smith's background that like we just don't know about, that there's things he said too in that speech that are like love makes you do crazy things. That's like textbook domestic abuser talk. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
guys say to police officers when they're at the door after they beat their wives. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying he beats his wife. I'm just saying like that is a mentality that was not new to Will Smith in the moment. You know what I mean? And that was his defense. And so to me, the speech was not a guy who was sorry for the actions. He was sorry for the repercussion that might come because of the actions. Not legal repercussion, but maybe an academy repercussion that he thought might be coming, or maybe somebody whispered into his ear, you better apologize, or you might not be ever asked back. You might be kicked out of the academy. All kinds of things could happen that are not life-ending things, but would not be great in the long run. He didn't seem too concerned with the guy he slapped in that speech. Didn't seem like he was thinking about him at all. You know what I mean?
No.
Didn't seem
Yep.
sorry for what just happened, as far as physically hurting somebody for doing their job.
Mhm.
And so if he didn't like that Chris Rock was doing, like, how many comedy clubs have comics on stage who roast the audience night after night? I'm not saying things don't ever get physical. I'm just saying, like, of all the places, of all the people, dude has a serious lack of self-control in this moment. And that might be because of other things that are going on that none of us have any clue about. I don't think there's like any at all excuse for laying your hands on somebody. I think Chris Rock could have been able to say 10 times as bad, and he shouldn't have hit the guy. You know what I mean? It's insane to me. And it's also like super hypocritical, like from a Hollywood perspective. Like they should have escorted him out. It should have been done right there and then. Absolutely. 100%. It should have been done right then.
What I heard was that like the people that can make that decision, all the producers, were just like not able to decide before he won his award. Like that they were kind of scrambling to figure out what they were talking about what to do, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
I mean, still they had a lot of time to. I mean, that's a hard place to be. Even if there's a right and wrong answer there, it's still like that's a lot of weight on you as a producer to make that call. You're gonna kick out the guy who's gonna win the award in 3 minutes. You know?
Do the producers know who's gonna win?
No.
So they made. I mean, they probably had to decide like, do we just cancel the award? Do we not do it? Because I mean, I don't think they know that Smith is gonna win.
Well, they're not going to cancel the award because if he's not going to win, they want to give it to the winner.
But what I'm saying is like, do we just put this off? Like, do we not do the broadcast? Do we just skip the award?
No,
I
I
feel
think
like
you
that was
give
a
out
decision.
the award. You give it to Will Smith if he gets it.
But he lost.
He lost the ability to
give a speech.
Yeah. He lost the ability to be in the room with people who are behaving themselves.
So you're saying he should have been gone. And
he should have
then
been
they give out the
escorted
award.
from the property for attacking somebody.
Yeah. And they're like, the winner is Will Smith. The Academy accepts on his behalf and move on.
Yeah, like what's the precedent here? Like you're allowed to hit someone on stage and stay at the Oscars?
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's
someone
that
on
to
Twitter
me,
said this is
that to me seemed clear, and there seemed to be no consensus needed that somebody needs to have the ability to make that decision in the moment. And obviously, this is a strange situation. It's never happened before. Hopefully, it will never happen again. But they need to have a plan now, evidently, that somebody's going to say something from the stage that somebody in the crowd's going to take offense to. And they have to have a plan that, or some kind of policy that says, this is a zero tolerance, no violence zone. I mean, they spent like 3 hours on like advocating for the lesser. And meanwhile, the guy who is very high up in Hollywood slapped a guy who's very high up in comedy, I would say, over a joke that he didn't like.
I mean, I'm guessing they didn't have a contingency plan for this. It probably wasn't in their minds of like, okay, now if a presenter gets attacked by a star, what are we going to do? Obviously, now they have to have a contingency plan, but I'm sure at the moment, they're right. It was just a scramble of what do we do now?
Yeah, and if you're not going to
I will reiterate.
Go ahead.
That even if you think the joke was in poor taste, like maybe he knew about the alopecia and it was in poor taste, I really commend Chris Rock's reaction to what happened. Right, he didn't turn it into just a really ugly brawl back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't double down. He just tried to hold it together and move on, and that's to his credit, I think.
He came back a little bit. You know, Will Smith went back to his seat, said his words. Chris Rock said it was a G.I. Jane joke. Like he's doing a little bit of like, come on, man. And then Will Smith repeated those words. And then Chris Rock was like, okay, like that's the point where he's like, all right, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, we're not gonna save this.
Exactly.
And you can see in his brain too. This is my assumption. I don't know what's in his brain, but it seemed like, and he even says like a few words about almost like I could really go somewhere with this. But he
was thinking of jokes in his head.
Oh, yeah,
he was thinking of jokes in his head.
Almost like, oh, you didn't like the G.I. Jane joke? I can come up with one that is brutal off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And I could say that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try to focus on moving on.
It's probably a good thing he did. I think Will Smith would have gotten back up. Denzel would have had to run on stage.
Yeah. Even if he hadn't, like, I mean, I know that's a learned instinct. Like, he's a stand-up comedian. I'm sure he's seen all kinds of craziness. He's had people yell at him from stages and maybe even people charge him. I don't know. And so I think probably some of that training kicked in and that he was like, okay, yeah, let's just move on. And this can only be made worse. And so I will do whatever I have to do to not make this worse.
I mean, in that moment, Chris Rock took the high road.
I think if Will Smith had just stayed in his seat and yelled, "That's not cool, man," I think everyone would have been understanding behind him, right? If in that moment instead he went to Jada and said like, "Are you okay?" Everyone would have been cool with that. If he had just slapped Chris Rock and then didn't yell, people would have thought it was a bit, and everything would have been fine. It was the combination of the two, and then. If during his acceptance speech, he had apologized to Chris Rock and said, I didn't like what you said, but that I didn't have a right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Then everything would have been fine. But he just pointedly did not do that.
No, he like every time he could have made it better, he did not.
And he gave a speech that was all about like, I'm trying to bring love into this world and stuff like that. And that just sounds very odd 20 minutes after you hit a guy.
Not only is it odd, like, I mean, I don't know how much Cops you guys have watched, but the stuff he was saying are versions of things that guys say when police officers show up at their door for domestic abuse issues. Like that there's too much pressure on me, and you know what I mean? Like
I act out
it's-
of love. I love too much.
yeah, I mean it's couched with everything we know about Will Smith and like the assumptions we make about high pressure careers and things like that, but it's the same style of language, and that's sad. And it wouldn't have happened. Not only that, but like Chris Rock, let's say you didn't like the joke. We all agree he had no business being slapped for it. Maybe some other repercussion that Will Smith could come up with that didn't involve physical violence, we'd be okay with as a society. But the guy leaves, right? Capitulates to the other person's wants, which is don't make jokes about what's going on here. That might have been his last joke anyway, but certainly Chris Rock gave him what he wanted. He was like, I'm out. I don't need to make jokes about you and your wife. This is the reaction I'm going to get. He gave the guy what he wanted, stepped away, is kind of the victim. When it comes to the violence in this situation, he goes into the back. You never hear from him again. And then a few minutes later, Will Smith gets to give as long a speech as he wants to justify what he just did to like millions of people. It just seems like an injustice.
Not only that, like there's a moment in the speech where he's like, the camera cuts away from him and goes to just the Oscar logo. And that's because Will Smith had said like, oh, I just spit on the stage. I hope no one sees that. And so the producers of the show like cut away so that they wouldn't show that because Will Smith didn't want them to show that, It was like a capitulation a little bit. Apparently that night at the after party, Will Smith was just having a great time and dancing to Jiggy With It in Miami and all sorts of stuff, just having a fantastic time.
Yeah, did anybody clock whether Chris Rock went to any after parties?
According to P. Diddy. So let's see.
P. Diddy says they worked it out.
Yeah. P. Diddy said they worked it out. So I assume Chris Rock still went to after parties. But
when did they work it out?
I don't know if they really.
Wait, P. Diddy said this when?
Like he tweeted later that day, like later that night.
P. Diddy said he talked to both of them. I don't think they've talked to each other. But P. Diddy said he talked to both of them.
I'm sure I'm not really upset about the situation. I'm sure everything will be fine between Will Smith and Chris Rock. I'm just kind of bummed for Will Smith, who seems to be publicly somebody who doesn't act that way. And yet obviously there's something going on, or there has been something going on his entire life that bubbled to this very moment. Could be one or the other. And that it reared its ugly head like in a moment that he's obviously worked hard for. That sucks for him. Sucks for people who like him, myself included. And it sucks for Chris Rock to get punched when you're just doing your job. Like that's crap. And I've heard people say way, way worse from the stages of nationally televised TV shows, and people did not react that way. And so it sucks for everybody. Sucks for
I mean,
Questlove.
Amy Schumer
Questlove.
practically did the exact same thing to Kirsten Dunst like half an hour later.
Yeah.
But that was a planned bit, though.
Sure, but it was the exact same thing.
I think that's the difference. The difference is one was a planned bit of like, oh, hey, I'm going to come out here and pretend like your wife is seat filler. Which, by the way, if they never do a seat filler joke again, I'm so sick of the seat filler jokes. It's like we have seat fillers. We're special every year. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure there's kind of going back. There's some history between Chris Rock and the Pinkett Smiths in that case. So it's right. It was the same joke, but the the same style of joke, but the context and the circumstances were completely different.
Mhm. Yeah, the other thing that disappointed me, and I don't really know much about Jaden Smith, but he's been mouthing off on Twitter about this whole situation, and that just
He's been mouthing off
it
on
makes
Twitter
it
for
has
like
nothing to do with what actually happened, but it makes my skin crawl that like Will Smith's son is like, yeah, that's how we do it in the Smith household. Like tweeting that moments after it happened. It's
Mhm.
kind of gross, I would say.
It's such a shame because Will Smith was obviously emotional during his speech, right?
Mhm.
And I think he would have been anyways if the slap never happened. I think that would have been the highlight of the night. Like his speech, him winning.
Mhm.
Everyone would have been so excited for him. And it just put such a black mark on the whole thing.
Mhm.
It's just such a shame,
Yeah.
you
because
know?
I think it truly was the best performance of all those 5 actors. Like I wanted him to win.
Mhm.
It's not just like, oh, it's Will Smith's time. Like, no, this is actually a truly one of his best Oscar-worthy performances. So, like on top of that, and then
Oh,
it's just the whole thing.
Yeah.
okay. Do you think Chris Rock goes on the red table with Jada Pinkett Smith?
Is
Or
that her
talks about it.
podcast?
It's
That's her like
her Facebook show.
online series.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think Jada wants anything to do with Chris Rock.
I think he goes on.
I think if he's invited on, he goes on. I'm just
Well,
not sure
yeah.
he's invited on.
I think the whole purpose of the show is let's have hard conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's gonna have him on.
Well,
I don't know. If I was
don't
Chris
know.
Rock, I would lay low, write some material for my next special, and ask who the highest bidder is.
And
Because
all his jokes be about
he's never had
great,
the leverage
luscious,
he
full
has
heads
right
of
now.
hair.
Say that again, Kyle.
All his jokes be about lush, full heads of hair.
Yeah, he just he has something to talk about, and if he held that for a special, whoever he sold it to, I'm sure would pay a pretty penny, unless he tells the story for free a bunch. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's all like 20 years ago. I remember watching a wrestling pay per view. Right, show starts. I know you guys don't care about wrestling pay per views, but stick with me. It's a live event. Show starts. People wrestle. A couple matches happen. Then this match that like really doesn't matter in the long run starts happening, and a wrestler dropped from the roof of the wrestling event. You guys might have heard about this.
Oh,
And he
yeah.
died
Died, yeah.
because the safety harness that he was going to rappel from the roof of this event from broke, and so he falls to his death. And it was shocking to watch live and could not focus the rest of the time. You know what I mean? Because that's
Mhm.
all you're thinking about. And I hadn't had that feeling again until we were watching the Oscars last night when I saw Will Smith punch or slap Chris Rock over a joke. It was just like I couldn't think about anything else that was happening. And that wasn't the worst crime that happened last night, but I don't watch the Oscars to see people, melt down in front of me in the worst kind of way. And any way they can avoid that in the future, I request it, please. Thank you.
D- Is there a chance that the Oscars will no longer be a live presentation?
I mean, they obviously need some more buffer time than they had last night.
Yeah.
And they might want to run a censored line to Australia.
And Japan. Those are the two I was seeing. That if you want the full unedited raw footage, find the Japanese feed.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole thing is sad. We shouldn't be here talking about this. Shouldn't have happened.
No, it should not have happened. No.
Anything else? Are we done on this? What? One more thing. So no repercussion night of, but should there be repercussions? Should Will Smith be kicked out of the Academy because he did assault somebody at one of their events, which, if he was a gaffer, guaranteed would get him kicked out of the academy.
I don't think there's gonna be. I don't think he's gonna face any consequences in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think he will either.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
sad too.
the Academy is so obsessed with numbers and ratings and being hip, and he's one of the most popular, biggest actors right now.
Mhm.
I think they'd be well within the right to say, publicly apologize for doing that on TV, or you can't come back in the room.
Mhm. You can be eligible
I
for
don't-
awards, but you can't.
They're
give a
not going to
speech.
take away his Oscar.
No,
I don't think did. They take away like Weinstein's Oscars, or did they just boot him?
I don't think they took away his Oscar.
I don't think they did either. Yeah, I can't remember them ever taking away somebody's Oscar, but they can definitely boot you from the Academy. Because you can not be a member of the Academy and still get nominated and things like that.
Mhm.
You're just never going to be a voting member. Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking for revenge or anything, but feels like if you're going to advocate for everybody being equal, no matter who you are, that you should remove his name and think about it that way. And I think if it was anybody else other than the Hollywood elite, they'd be out. No questions asked.
Well, in general, I really dislike the idea of there being different rules for different people based on status.
Mhm. Yep.
So as long as there's a consistent kind of policy, I'm fine with it.
I am reading that the Academy's Board of Governors are meeting on Wednesday to discuss the incident. So maybe we'll find out on Thursday what, if anything, is going to happen.
Sure.
I would love to be in that room.
Absolutely.
That would be a fun room.
Yeah, I mean, I bet you there's
Whoopi's on the Board of Governors.
I mean, I want to
there's gonna
see.
be not a lot. It's gonna be hard for them to find a consensus. I think there's some very staunch opinions on what he was in his right to do there.
It's amazing to see how polarized this is. Like, just reading Twitter, like half of people are team Will Smith and half of them are team Chris Rock.
Yeah.
It's amazing how people feel very strongly one way or another.
Mhm.
I think that's just the greater trend of people lack nuance.
Mhm.
You have to make your claim in one side or the other, and you can't kind of like work your way through the middle.
What's the over?
That's a bigger discussion.
What's the over under on next year? Whoever the host is walks out like in a full body protective suit as a joke.
I think if Will Smith is there, I could see someone walking out in like full karate, pads.
And making a joke about him being there?
Oh, I see Will Smith is in the audience. I don't know. I mean, I think it kind of depends what happens in the next week.
I think if they were to do that, they would run it by Will Smith.
Oh, for sure.
Or at least give him a heads up it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too bad they didn't have like a neck brace that Chris Rock could have put on and come out like 20 minutes later. That would have been amazing.
Like if he
Sure.
was the regular host.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the footage I want to see, is like him just coming off stage and like what's the first conversation he has with anybody in that moment.
I guarantee you the first thing out of his mouth with the first time someone goes up to him is like, it's cool, it's okay, it's okay. Like
Right.
that's what someone says after that situation.
Yeah.
It's fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, he's just trying to
Right.
be like, all right, let's move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have
Have you seen the like footage in the break where Bradley Cooper and Denzel and everyone are like chatting with Will Smith? It's super fascinating to watch.
Yeah, his publicist was one of those people in that little scrum, which I'm sure she was the one like, dude.
Yeah. I wonder in those conversations if any of them were like, you need to apologize to Chris. and then maybe he was going to, and it just in the moment left the brain. But it seems like you would have
He was not
tweeted.
going
You would have
to.
tweeted
Yeah.
by now if you
Yeah. He was not going to.
No.
right. Because I think
Nor
if,
does he think he should.
right. I think if he had, there would definitely be no repercussion. The fact that he didn't makes me think that if the Academy was going to do anything, that would be the impetus for doing something.
If he had come on stage when he won and said, "Hey, where's Chris Rock? I want to bring him out here," and like done a face-to-face apology as his speech, and then been like, "Thank you for this," and left, we would be having a much different conversation right now.
Yeah, I don't know about calling him out on stage. I mean, he just smacked the crap out of the guy. So if I was Chris Rock, I'd be like, I'm not going out there.
But even if Will Smith made that effort to be like, "Hey, I want to apologize to this guy to his face," literally.
Sure. No, I understand the sentiment. Even if he just said, "Chris, I'm sorry, that was uncalled for. I apologize." Just said that into the mic and then went into whatever speech he wanted to give. I think people would have moved on much faster than we have tonight. For sure. But he didn't do that. That's what concerns me, is like, I think Will Smith thinks he did the right thing. His son definitely, based on what he's tweeting, thinks he did the right thing. And that seems to not line up in my brain as somebody who actually regrets doing it. So anyway, we've probably talked about this enough. Anything else related to the Oscars? We just gotta talk about.
I just want to say, whenever someone brings up Jaden Smith, I think of Saul Volcano
with a tattoo of him,
with his tattoo on his leg.
Oh yeah.
And that makes me happy. So, like, I read the Jaden Smith tweet and I thought about the Saul Volcano tattoo and his reaction. I'm like, okay, I'm happy again.
You know, we didn't talk about that we should real quick is how we did with our guesses.
I did not keep track.
I kept track for you and me, but not for Zach.
And I have mine.
You have yours.
All right. Well,
you should probably double check me at some point, Kyle. Now is probably not the time, but I did my best to keep track of you and I.
I can bring mine up as you go through.
And you'll like the results because you beat me. So, but I had Kyle with 12 of his wills being correct, which isn't exactly a great score. 12 out of
24.
24. For my scale, if I can get 15, 16, 17, 18, I've done well. And anywhere between 12 and 15 is like what I normally do on like a not great night.
So my wills are the ones I think will win.
Those are the ones that really count. Or
yeah.
Those are the ones based on the knowledge you had.
Okay.
You thought will win. You got 12 of those correct. Of the ones I thought will win, I got 10, which was not good. Probably the worst I've done since I've started doing this, basically.
Because you went all in on Power of the Dog.
Yeah. My wants actually did better. So those are just things that I'd rather have happen. I got 11 of those, so slightly better. Kyle ended up with 10. So just 2 less than your calculated picks, your wants. You got 2 less in that category.
I correctly predicted that Power of the Dog would not win. I just chose the wrong, or sorry, for my wants. No, for my will. I think I did not choose Power of the Dog as will win either. So
you chose Licorice Pizza for your want and Belfast for will.
For my win. I was going for the feel good. I should have gone for the feelier, goodier Coda. So
right.
Oh well.
Yep.
For my will win, I got 22 out of 20. No.
I
got 7.
Ow! Wow.
And for my want, like James, I got 8. I got more for my wants.
Mm-hmm. So the thing that Zach and I learned this year is we should just stick with our wants, and we might do better than just even trying to predict it.
Yeah, you try and get in the head too much, and start talking yourself into Power of the Dog for everything.
Yep. Exactly what happened.
All right, guys, let's letterbox review the Oscars this year. 5-star rating.
Oh man.
What are you giving it?
I mean, it's memorable.
It's definitely memorable.
Yeah.
For not the right reasons.
I think I'm gonna give this I'm gonna give it 3 stars. Better than average. Had its positive moments.
I mean, it was not average. So as an overall moment in time that I'm going to remember, I will give it a 3.5.
I'm giving it a 4-star. I was thoroughly
Wow.
entertained.
Okay.
I had a good time.
All right. Cool.
It gave me something I'd never gotten before from the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
That yeah.
Physical violence.
It's awful.
Zach wants more.
So a 2.5, a 3.5, and a 4.
No, a 3.
A 3, a 3.5, and a 4 for the Oscars, the 94th annual Oscars. Moving on to our next topic for this week. It's a movie titled Drive My Car that we're going to go in depth on right after this clip.
本当は子供欲しかったもう一度
わかんないな誰もあの子の代わりにはなれないわけだし
でも同じぐらい愛せたかも
君が望まないものを僕だけ望んでも仕方ないよ
ごめんね
君のせいじゃない僕も君と一緒にそれを選んだんだだからいいんだよ
That was Drive My Car, a 2021 Japanese drama road film, according to Wikipedia.
Not a road film.
No.
According to this, it is.
Roads in it.
There are roads in it. I am not going to try to pronounce any of these names because I cannot pronounce most of these names. But there's people in it. And if you'd like to know their exact names, go look it up. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Drive My Car is a renowned stage actor and director learns to cope with his wife's unexpected passing when he receives an offer to direct a production of Uncle Vanya in Hiroshima.
Yeah, so this is a movie that takes place in Japan with I wouldn't say just Japanese cast, but a Pan-Asian cast.
Okay. Can you give us like a little more of a plot description? Give us a setup, Kyle.
Oh, man. Okay. Right, so there's this director. He and his wife have a passionately interesting relationship. That goes on for like 45 minutes. She dies. And then he is I think maybe even beforehand, he takes a job to direct Uncle Vanya in Hiroshima. However, he cannot drive. He has glaucoma. Is that correct? Okay. So the whatever the theater he's working with, the production company hires a woman to be his driver, to drive him like to and from the set to his house. And during this time, he speaks with her. He listens to tapes of Uncle Vanya that his wife recorded, and he gets to know the other actors involved in the production.
And processes their relationship in her death.
Yes, right. There is some connections between some of the actors and his wife, as well as his connection to Uncle Vanya through her.
Right.
Yeah. So as mentioned before, this was an international film that was up for Best International Picture and also up for Best Picture, which is not happened very often, but has happened here in recent years where some international films have been able to break into that race. Most famously was the one that won.
Parasite?
Parasite not only worked its way into the Best Picture category, but ended up winning. And it was one of the few that we hadn't seen that were Best Picture nominees, so we decided to watch it. That's what we did. And now we're going to talk about it. What did you guys think of Drive My Car? Kyle, sounds like you thought it was long.
I did. So I will say I had trouble getting into this movie. I watched it over 3 sessions. I watch the first 45 minutes, and then the credits happen. I'm like, okay, this is a good place to stop.
Right.
And then I watch the next hour, like a night later, and I was getting tired. I didn't want to fall asleep. Then I went on vacation for a week, and then I watched the final hour and 15 like a couple nights ago. So
Sure.
I have completed the movie.
As the original creator intended.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're okay. Honestly, I think you can watch the first 45 minutes, and then if you need to like, then you can't do a 3-hour movie. You can then stop and then watch the next 2 hour and 15 later, because it's the first 45 obviously is connected, but it's clearly a prologue to what's going to happen in the rest of the movie.
I don't disagree with that. I think you're on pretty solid ground to take a break
Yeah.
right then.
I would not recommend stopping halfway through that next 2 hours, but I also didn't want to fall asleep during the movie, so
Mhm.
I had to make a decision there. So yeah, I found this movie hard to get into. That being said, I don't have like a ton to criticize about it. Like, I didn't find it to be a bad movie. I thought it was well directed. I thought the casting was really interesting, both the casting of the movie and then how those cast members played roles in the play itself. I don't know if this is common in Japanese or Asian theater, but everyone is like, this play was kind of like spaghetti western, where everyone was speaking their native language, including one woman who was signing Korean. And then while the play is being performed, you could see like subtitles, or I guess they're super titles, but projected above the stage of like English and then all the different languages. And I thought that was actually a really interesting way to do a stage production
Mhm.
of like, just everyone comes with their own natural language, and then you perform how you want to, and then we'll just break it all out for the audience above you. And which opera's done the same way. Operas, are often done in other languages, and there's subtitles or super titles being performed. So I thought that was actually quite interesting. And there were some really like scenes that captivated me. Like the scene where he has dinner with the producer and his wife, I thought was a really interesting scene that held my attention. The scene where he's in the car with the young actor and they're talking about his wife and this kind of the stories that she would spin. I mean, that was kind of interesting. But then I also just kind of felt left empty with some things. I really thought there would be more focus on the woman who's driving the car,
Mhm.
being the fact it's called Drive My Car. And they get a little bit into her character, but it doesn't really go as deep as I thought it would, or they didn't form like as the relationship, not like, romantic, but just like the bond that I thought they'd form, being that they spend that much time together. That I thought that was what the movie was about. So yeah, I can't say that this was a bad movie, or I can't say I didn't like this, or that there was any one thing that bothered me. I just was not super blown away by this movie. There was moments I enjoyed, but it's not a movie that I'm going to like say you have to go see this.
Yeah, James.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with your final sentiment there. This is not a movie anybody has to go see for sure. I it's a very specific movie, with a very specific style, and this is not a movie I would recommend to anybody really, because I think you have to come to this movie on your own for whatever motivation got you put it in front of you, I would say. Because I honestly don't know who would watch this and why, because it's very dry and very long, and it's kind of like, it's not plotless, it's just a collection of scenes. And I did find some intrigue in the collection of scenes. Like, even your main character, the way he processes the grief is not very visual or expressive. You can feel that it's happening in the background, but he's not a super emotional, visually emotional person. And I kind of was waiting for some payoff on some emotional levels that I'm not sure were fully realized. And that's pretty realistic for some people, that they're just not visually emotionally expressive. And so it's not a fault with the movie. It's just the movie just kind of happened to me, and I found interesting things in there. I'm just not sure they were worth the investment. Like
Yeah.
the scene at the house with the interpreter and his wife was riveting.
Yeah.
I love that scene. It was awesome. The twist related to that scene was cool. Because you were given information you didn't know before, and it put in context some of these supporting characters, and one of the few scenes you actually see an emotion from the lead character in. It's one of the few scenes you see him relating to other people on a level that seemed like there might be hope for him in the future. Um, that scene, the scene where a character gets removed from the play, felt like it was out of nowhere and like brought me back into the movie a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, it's going to become that movie. And then it does not become that movie. And I was like, okay, well, then he has to make a decision. And I thought he was going to wrestle with this decision, or it would be hard for him. And then it turns out that's not the case. He just kind of makes the decision and then does it. And I don't know. I feel like if this was an American film, there would have been like a big scene with a huge cathartic release at the end. And I just did not feel that from the movie. I think there is an element of that. I think maybe culturally that's like as far as those things go. But I'm not conditioned for that style of storytelling. And so by the time I got done, I was kind of like, I like parts of that, but I never need to watch it again. And like Burning, I think has a similar vibe and has similar things about it, but I got the cathartic American US viewer release at the end. And so I was like, I was perfectly happy with that one. And this one's a third longer and doesn't have that. And so it was hard for me. But it was super well acted. I believed everything that was happening on the screen. It just felt like not much was happening. There's a really cool shot at the beginning that I thought I was going to be all in on this movie just because of this one shot. And then nothing happens after that visually.
What shot?
It's a shot. It's really close to the beginning. Like they show the couple in bed. They're talking about something she's writing. She's like dictating what she's going to write. And then they get in a car and they drive somewhere. And you see the car from a distance coming down the road. And and then it takes a right-hand turn, and then a building covers the shot of it going down the road, and you can hear the characters talking in the background in the car, but you're like bird's eye view, you're like, 200 yards away. And somehow that cameraman tracked that car behind the building for like what felt like 10 seconds and timed it perfectly so that when they came back into view from behind the building, they were still perfectly framed in the center of the shot. And I was like, how do you do that? Like time the speed of the car with the movement of the camera, the panning of the camera so flawlessly. I want to know whether that was a one-shot wonder or whether they planned that or it was computer controlled, or I don't know how you get that shot other than skill. And it was a cool shot. I was like, oh, maybe there's going to be a bunch of cool shots in this movie. And there was just that one.
James, I do wonder if some of the criticism that we share is just a culturally different take on how you do a drama and how you express emotion.
Yeah. I don't know. How did you feel about it, Zach?
Okay, so I have to warn anyone that is interested in this movie. This is not a Hollywood film.
Right.
So what you're going to get from this movie, it's going for something different than what most Hollywood films are going for, right? So
this is not Parasite.
Yeah, for sure. It's not, definitely not Parasite.
Right.
You get pretty pretty shortly into this film, you realize, okay, this movie is not trying to necessarily entertain me. It is trying to get to some deeper truth, right? Like that's what the movie's trying to do. It's trying to uh deal with some thoughts and issues and like see what kind of truth we can mine out of it, right? And entertainment, I think, is secondary goal, not a primary goal of this film. So I was like, okay, well, I can be on board for that. So I did enjoy the film on that level. I think with that being the goal, executed super well as far as acting goes. I was super impressed by all the performances. Even um, there's a young male star that is super well known, and people try to take his picture when they see him on the street, kind of a thing. He actually was a pretty dopey actor, I thought. Like his normal persona was kind of like silly, but in his audition scene, he was such a good actor.
Yeah.
Like that was a good audition scene. It instantly pulled me in, and I was like, oh, okay, so he's a good actor, and this dopiness that I'm getting from his like main character is an acting job. He's acting that role, and so that gave him a pass on that. Maybe the only character that I was not really interested in was the driver of the car. I found her to be very uninteresting and one-dimensional, and really the subplot of him needing a driver and her being the driver and their relationship with each other and shared history, all of that I thought was the weakest part of the film.
It didn't really go anywhere.
Right. And I don't think it achieved this kind of profundity that I think that it wanted to. But anything having to do with getting the crew together and getting this play rehearsed, and his wife in the first 45 minutes, and him dealing with their complicated relationship and the loss, all of that I found very interesting and nuanced and complex, right? He had such a mix of emotions, right? Justifiably. And I found that interesting, and I was okay spending time and subtlety living in that complexity. So ultimately I did enjoy it. I thought it was very competently shot. For being a movie where nothing visually interesting is happening, it was still nice to look at, so yeah, ultimately I did enjoy the film. I agree with James. There's no one in my life that I'm calling to recommend this film. Like if I know that you want modern cinema that is more about truth than entertainment, maybe I'd point you towards this.
Right.
But no one else,
Right.
Who's the director? It's a single name. Did he do like the Workmeister harmonies? Like it's San Tango or something like that?
Saint Tango is his other film.
Okay, what's that director's name?
Ryasuke.
Bella Tar.
No, say again, James.
You're talking about the director of Drive My Car?
No.
He's thinking of Bellatar.
Bellatar, right? I mean, is this kind of in that same vein as Bellatar? Like you talk about Bellatar as like he's trying to get to a truth, not really.
To me, these are very different directors. I think Bellatar is intentionally trying to push you away.
Okay.
As a viewer. I think that's part of what he's getting at, is that like, I'm going to make art hard in order to get somewhere. This director, I don't think he's trying to make art hard.
Okay.
I think he's just I'm gonna make this movie to explore this character and his feelings, and however that plays out is fine with him. I found Bellatar to be much more challenging.
Okay.
What about you?
I mean, I maybe this guy's more like, no, I mean Tarkovsky. I'm trying to like find an analog to another director, or like what you could describe this movie as being similar to. And I don't know if Tarkovsky's the right
I think
name per
Tarkovsky's
se. maybe
Yeah,
closer. Yeah.
Tarkovsky's close. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, or Bresson.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I like that.
Yeah, I saw it in one sitting. I can honestly say I wasn't really challenged by the length. There was enough there, even if it was just drips, that when I got bored, it didn't last too long. They would bring it back with the scene at the couple's house or the other things, the other beats that happen over the course. Yeah, it's just once we got to the end, I was kind of like, but what did all that add up to? I'm not sure that was all worth it in the end. Not that I regretted seeing it. It's nice to know when people talk about this critically acclaimed movie, what they're talking about. That's nice. But that might be the only real thing I got out of it in the end.
I'm still waiting for Kyle to make a Chekhov joke.
Oh, I have one. I was just waiting for I was waiting for the right moment. So, but since you set me up, this movie we saw a literal Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I was like, hey, there it is. It's there. I kind of wish this movie had also like its own Chekhov's gun. That would have been really clever. But that's not that kind of movie that this is. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Nothing that happened in the first act came back to bite you in the third act. So, I did like this car, the car itself. I had a friend in high school who had a Saab 900 Turbo, and I have a movie memory connected to it. Who's the friend?
Yeah.
Tyson.
He had a Saab?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was his first car.
Wow.
And he and I went to go see Three Kings. And Zach, this is on Market Square, the cheap theaters.
Yeah.
And it was snowing, so it must have been like winter or early spring or something like that. And we were driving around, and he went to take a left turn, like onto a road that was like a divided road. This was Mineral Point Road, Zach, for your context,
And no one else's.
for just Zach's. But right, so this is a road that has like a median in the middle. So he takes a left turn onto this road in the middle of winter. And we immediately get rear-ended by a car because he turned out right in front of a car, and a car that could not, brake in time because there was snow on the ground. 100% his fault. So, and I just remember, like, we go to a gas station, and the woman who was driving, she was probably like college age, in her 20s or something like that, and she finds out that my friend, that we're like 16-year-olds, and she's on her cell phone with her mom, and I just remember her saying on the cell phone, "He's only a kid, Mom." I don't know what the other side of the conversation was, but I can't think of Three Kings without thinking of that moment right there.
Sure.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right. Anything else for Drive My Car?
No.
Zach, do you want to know the gas station we pulled into? Would that be helpful? Or
That would be helpful.
okay. I think we actually turned around and went to the old what was across from on the corner of Grand Canyon in Mineral Point Road.
Did he end up having to pay a lot of money?
I mean, he had
insurance,
insurance, so I'm sure insurance ended up having to pay.
Sure.
Yeah. It was one of those things where, like, a police officer arrived and they interviewed me, and they're like, "Did you see a car coming?" And I was just like, I'm not gonna throw my friend to the bus. And I was like, I saw headlights. I don't know what lane it was in.
That kind of was throwing him under the bus.
No, I just acknowledged that there
She
was
said,
a car
"Absolutely
coming.
not. There was no one on the road. I
Yeah.
don't know where she came from."
You totally snitched on your friend.
I'm not gonna lie to him. Well, I mean, it's generally speaking, like, I guess when you get rear-ended, it's usually the person who rear-ends you, their fault.
Exactly.
But, like, he obviously took a left turn in front of this person. Like, there's no way to.
You had a chance to
us.
save your friend. You didn't take it.
Yeah.
You did the opposite.
I'm not gonna lie to the
Yeah.
police.
You could be like, we were just driving down the road and she sped up into us.
Yeah, and she had no headlights on.
Yeah.
I think she's drunk. Yeah, well, if I could go back in time, I would say, hey, 60-year-old Kyle, let's handle this differently.
Oh.
All right. What are you guys rating this movie?
I mean, from a filmmaking perspective, I think technically, like as far as the technical art of acting, the technical art of like putting together a story, I think it's very solid. That
Mhm.
being said, I didn't particularly enjoy it in the end, and so I will give it a 3.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat. Like I said, there's nothing I can criticize about it. I'm not blown away. I'm gonna give it 3.5 just because the car gave me a little extra boost there.
Nostalgia boost.
A nostalgia boost for the car.
Nostalgia boost. This movie was good. I give it 4 stars.
A 3, a 3.5, and a 4, just like the Oscars for Drive My Car.
We spent over an hour on the Oscars in like 15 minutes on Drive My Car.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode 523 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, you can always check us out on YouTube at Cinereelists. You could follow us on Patreon. You could leave us an Apple Podcast review or send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com with a comment, question, list suggestion, movie suggestion, any of those kinds of things. What's your opinion on what happened this year at the Oscars? Either the awards given or otherwise. Love to hear any input you guys have on that, or if you did better at guessing. I'm curious to know if everybody had an awful year, if it was just that unpredictable, or if it was just us. Because I feel like I personally didn't do my best. So yeah, send us an email, or you could follow us on social media at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at Cinereelists, or you can follow me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB.
You can find me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaban.
You can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB.
Next week I will be missing from the podcast, so it's just the boys. Next week.
The men.
The boys. I'm the man. You guys are the boys.
Creepy boys with a Z. The boys.
Okay.
All right.
The boys.
Sweet.
And I don't know what they're going to talk about. It's a mystery to me as well. So either way, it'll be a surprise. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, keep it Cinereel.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.